How's it going, everyone? Today I'm going to be talking about the Arcane show streaming on Netflix, the League of Legends show. I'm so excited to talk about this. I've been excited to watch it for a long time. You might be like, oh, wow, this is coming out way later than the show release. Well, this last month has been a little bit busy. But I have watched the show twice now. I rewatched it again because I watched it right as it was first coming out. I wasn't able to record fast enough. So it kind of started slipping away from the memory. So I had to rewatch to make sure that I had everything fresh so that I could really discuss and talk about it. I'm sure, there's probably a billion reviews about this show at this point. And it is a really, really, really good show. I would say mostly because of its character work. Like, the characters in the show, and I think this is the benefit of having, since it's based off League characters already, there's loose lore that exists that they can pull from and kind of reworked the way they want it to be reworked. That really helps dig into that, especially since those are like the primary focus are the League of Legends actual characters. We've got Vi, Jinx, Caitlyn, Jace, Victor, Heimerdinger. And just throughout the piece, though, they go and they, they break it up into the 3 chapters, obviously. But they weave such good character moments in that really get us to empathize and want to root for these characters. Especially the story between Vi and Jinx, which I would say kind of takes the priority in the show overall. We do get the, Jace and Victor and all the Hex Tech stuff involved as well, and it is quite a major part of the show. But I would say at the heart of the show is Vi and Jinx's story and kind of how 2 sisters kind of lose each other and take separate paths because of how they were brought up. So fantastic, absolutely awesome. If you haven't watched the show yet, I really recommend that you go watch it. And honestly, I couldn't sing the praises enough of this show. The story itself is really interesting. I was like, I'm happy they did 3 episodes a week because I don't know how I could have waited 9 weeks for this, for these to come out. And I like how they did it in a way where it felt like a concluding story, and while I was wanting more and I wanted to finish the show, I wasn't left after 3 episodes at a point of like, oh, come on, you can't end it there. So I thought that was super well done. And I'm sure a billion people have talked about this, but man, that Vi and Caitlyn relationship is like, if you're interested in writing relationships, that's a good, honestly, probably one of the best examples to do it. They do it in such a naturally occurring way that it feels like it flows. Like, it doesn't feel like a lot of book or story relationships, because a lot of times those are done with tropes in a way where it's like, oh, they kissed and now they're together, and that's kind of where the, conflict and tension ends with that. There's no building upon that relationship further. It's all played off like these little minor tropes, like the touching hands and stuff. And there are elements of that here, but there's this natural progression of genuine care for each other that is very satisfying to see and super interesting. I'm definitely going to be like, when I get a chance, I'm going to go back and probably rewatch again, just focusing on the beats of that relationship, because it happens. I mean, it only happens from basically 5 and beyond. And it's just those little quiet moments that really build that up. And I think that's one thing that you really, and some shows and movies have really been forgetting about, that you need these small, quiet character moments, not with action, not super packed full of stuff, just to get us to care and get us to see these characters as normal people. They don't always have to be in a fight for their lives. Sometimes they just need to, be hanging out and like talking about how they kind of got here and what they're feeling. All right. Tons of praise for this show. I could talk about that all day, but let's go into just a couple criticisms I do have. And these aren't these don't break the show for me at all. They are more just things that I would say don't personally like, and I don't really like to see when things do this. I would say the major one that is more direct criticism is the sequence when Jace makes the hammer and him and Vi team up to go kind of take down Silco in the Undercity in their own way of basically just, we're going to go beat up people. Which for them together really makes sense. I really enjoyed that concept. I liked getting to see, the Hex Tech at work in their hands. I thought that was super cool. But the problem with that sequence for me is that it does exactly what I was just talking about. It doesn't give that breathing time. It's basically just they do like one thing. They have like one fight scene together, and that's it. It's done. It almost felt like that should have had its own episode, and I know they were probably trying to keep it specifically to 9 to do it in 3-3. But I almost felt like it would have been better if they would have given the time to let those two characters interact a bit more, have some relationships be built between them of, working together, and then have this tragic moment, with Jace and him taking out the kid by accident. It wasn't intentional. And having him have those regrets. I think it would have made that moment feel more impactful if they would have had that time of him like getting a little cocky, getting ahead of himself, like thinking, oh, he's basically, invulnerable. He can do whatever he wants. He's doing good for the people. And then strike it with, no, there are real consequences for the actions that you are taking, and to have him recognize that and take it into consideration when he basically stops what he's doing. And I think that's what they were trying to go for. I just don't think they had enough time to really have that sequence hit as much home. They really wanted to get Vi the gauntlets and Jace have the hammer by the end of season 1, because a lot of people, I'm sure, were waiting for that moment, including myself. And they wanted Vi to have the gauntlets for the follow-up fight in, and I believe it might be, I think it's episode 8. So, a bit of critique there. I would have liked to see more. Now, again, doesn't ruin the series for me in any way. It's just one of those moments that I'm like, you could have there's so much more potential here. You could have, grinded out of this moment, and it would have been really cool to see. My other thing, which I know I think people are back and forth on this. I don't personally like ending on a cliffhanger for a season. I know it gets the hype up, and a lot of people, almost every story does it. I would have been okay with it, concluding without that. But again, elements about it are good. It's cool to see Jinx get to use her ultimate from the game, basically, and see how that kind of develops in this world. And, it's a cool shot and a cool scene, and I like the whole dinner sequence. I think that's just fascinating, and also just getting to see how, like, crazy Jinx is. And getting to see like Vi's reactions to that and trying to get through to her sister, and there's an element of it, that's still there, but her sister's, I think it's the moment where she kind of realized her sister's gone and she's not coming back. But yeah, it's one of those things where I got to the end and I was like, no, because we're gonna have to wait to find out what happens. And that's more of a personal thing for myself, because I really love to get super, I get super invested in the story, so I really want to see what happens next, and I will just go through stories very, very quickly to find out how these, pieces wrap up, and now I'm going to have to wait at least another year and a half probably to get what happens after that. One thing with it too that I'm kind of I think one more problem I have with it is it does the classic, like, they're having the council meeting when the rocket is coming in, and I want to know. I'm hopeful, judging by the writing of the show, that they won't let this moment have no consequences. Obviously, like, the vote that they were holding about giving Zon its own independence is obviously probably not going to go through because they were attacked right afterwards. But I want to see some of these characters get wiped out here, and, like, obviously we know Jace is going to live. Victor's going to live. But I want to see what happens because of all this. And I think the reason I really wanted that scene right now is because it's interesting to this first season story of, like, a big part of, like, Jace and Victor's struggle with Hextech is they wanted to bring, Hextech to the people to help people's lives, to improve everyone's lives, and it ended up they ended up making weapons, and it's kind of getting turned back on them of, like, yeah, you made these, and now because you've made these, your enemies have also made weapons to fight back, and this escalation. So we'll see in season 2. Overall, love this show. I'm really excited for season 2. I'm actually surprised it took League this long to make an animated show, because it I don't know, it just seemed like something that was up their alley that they would do. But I'm happy we're getting this. I'm excited to see who else we get to see in season 2 and where the story's going to go from this point, because obviously it's going to need to expand and get bigger, I would imagine, to set up however long they want to keep this going. I hope they figure out, like, I have a plan of, like, okay, we're going to do this many seasons, or maybe they're going to do things where, like, we have this many seasons here, but we're going to do a other show that deals with this area of the world. So we'll see. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to all of you about it. I'm interested to know. I feel like most people's take on this show is extremely positive. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And I hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching.